Hey, EDPS 340 students, again from beautiful, almost downtown Royal Oak, Michigan. Um, Lecture number 11, I think, and the last lecture for the semester. As always, I hope you're well. For sure, today's lecture is not really assessment related, but I just can't help sharing a little bit from my long career, but reasonably successful career in K-12, about the job hunt search that's coming up for all of you. So you may want to pull up from that package I sent you, I think on the 13th, the document called 6 Job Hunting Tips for Teachers. So I'll wait just a moment while you pull that up. Alrighty. Actually, before I start, I want to point out one other thing I just threw in that package. I'll hold it up. That poor kid in the cartoon. I think it's funny, as I think about myself, that I teach an entire course on classroom assessment, and yet I am the first to say we over-test. We certainly give too many of the big tests, high-stakes tests to students, take away from instruction, and I'm just not a big fan of the way we do it. So I just thought I'd share that. Now on to job hunting tips. These are my 6 tips that go a bit beyond the obvious that I'm sure you know. You don't come into an interview when you're looking for a job smacking your gum and wearing your holiest jeans, so to speak. I'm sure those things are obvious. But what have I learned in a zillion years of teaching and administration? If I haven't shared this comment with you before, I'm doing it now. If I did share it, you probably forgot it anyway. When I was a principal in Grosse Pointe one year, there was a big teacher buyout, meaning the Grosse Pointe district was having a money crunch, and one way to save money was to offer veteran teachers big bucks to leave and not come back. And what they did was offered teachers 60 grand, yes, $60,000. This was in the mid-90s, to leave, never come back. And of course, then the district would hire young punks like you all at a much cheaper rate. And then in the long run, the district would save money. Anyway, my point is that summer, because so many teachers took advantage of the buyout and left, I basically lost my July vacation and did a zillion interviews. And I feel like I learned a lot about interviewing. What is it? What's the phrase? Cut my eye teeth or something like that. Anyway, let's take a look at that list of 6. And I have a few comments about each. Don't claim you're the best candidate. Oh, you don't want to say that. Because let's say you're sitting with a panel or the principal or whomever, and you say that. The people on the other side of the table or whatever would have the right to say, how do you know that? How do you know you're the best candidate? Did you sneak in at night and look at all the applications and resumes and look them over and decided you're the best? Of course, no one's going to say that to you, but you don't want them to think that. So my suggestion is claim that you're an excellent match, right, for the position, which means you need to do a little bit of homework ahead of time about the school, the district, and the position being offered. Hey, at interviews, I suggest you be ready with a very personal, short sales pitch, kind of the elevator talk about why you're so cool. I would almost memorize it. Maybe not word for word, but be ready to share just something personal. I used to give workshops on this whole shtick for free at Eastern, and maybe this fall, if this virus thing is out of the way, I'll offer that again and keep you all informed. But it's good to have a personal sales pitch as to why you are pretty darn good. This is just a real minor thing, but I think it's helpful. At interviews, note that you are a, quote, quick study. I don't know if you heard that phrase before, but it means you learn fast. You can't possibly know everything about education. I don't, and I've been around since the Civil War. So don't try to fake it if they ask you questions that you can't answer. If they say, so what did you learn about Piaget at Eastern? And you either didn't learn about Piaget or don't remember what you learned about Piaget. Don't fake it. You simply say, well, that's one thing we didn't cover, just to be honest. But if that's something important that I need to know or be familiar with for this job, I want you to know that I'm a quick study. That comes across well. So in written material, when you're looking for the job, by written material I mean your resume, typically a cover letter, which will be submitted electronically, but you need to bring hard copy to any in-person interviews, of course. Although some districts are shifting now to all virtual interviews. I don't know how many do that. I got to find that out. But anyway, if you're lucky enough to get an in-person interview, as I said a minute ago, you want to be ready with showing some knowledge about the position, about the district. So how do you find out? Well, you go to their website. Maybe you stop in the board office cold. You just pick up newsletters. Again, they might be online. They might not be. Just come prepared, right? If the district does something unique or special, or they have a particular emphasis, such as they use the Danielson framework for teaching or whatever, again, do your homework. Now, don't come across as an expert if you're not, but say something like, well, hey, in doing my homework, you can say that. Doing my homework for this interview, I noticed that you emphasize Danielson here, and boy, I understand what she has to say, and I think I could work with that really well in this position. Something like that, right? You wouldn't think, number 5, written material, 0 typos, grammar issues. You wouldn't think that's a big issue, but I'll tell you, again, thinking back to my experience in Grosse Pointe, we had 5,000 apps for, I think, about 150 positions. And every one of those apps had to be gone through. I'll tell you what got you off the table quickly was a resume, a cover letter that had typos. So you have to make triple sure that you have no typos at all, no grammar issues, right? The way to deal with that is to have someone trusted look stuff over before you submit. Okay, it might not be fair to discount a potential teacher candidate because he or she screwed up there, and there on a resume. But I'll tell you, at the end of the day, if the administrator has looked through 120 applications, and the first thing he or she notices are typos, it does not work in your favor. Okay. Hey, as a prof, I'm available down the line to look at your resumes and give you feedback. So when this happens next year for most of you, feel free to say, hey, Maylone, you said you would look over my resume or cover letters too, whatever. Be happy to look at it. Be happy to meet with you and give you some tips. Finally, another thing that may seem minor, but you do want to get names and titles exactly right. Now, I think I told you at the start of EDPS that I could care less if you called me Dr. Maylone or Professor Maylone or Nelson, as a few of you have done. I am proud of my doctorate, but it doesn't make me better than anybody else, and I know that. Um, it just means I jumped through the hoops to get there, right? Maybe learned a few things. But some people with doctorates don't feel that way, and they are real proud and protective of the title. And so if it's Dr. McGillicuddy, you don't want to go with Ms. or Mr. McGillicuddy, right? There's no reason to turn them off early. So how do you get this stuff right? Well, you ask ahead of time. You stop in a building, talk to the secretary, you call the board office. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong at all to say a secretary. I have an interview coming up at so-and-so school, and I really want to get names and titles right. So could you help me with the pronunciation of the superintendent? Maybe it's a Polish name. I'm Polish, and maybe it doesn't have a whole lot of vowels, and there's a lot of Z's and X's, and you need help on pronunciation. So, for an interviewer who has a difficult to pronounce name, or a name from a ethnic group perhaps that you're unfamiliar with, when you get that name exactly right, that maybe that shouldn't give you points, but it does. So I'm just saying. So I hope these tips were helpful. I have about a zillion other tips, but these are some that I just wanted to highlight for some reason. So that thus ends today's sermon. I may do one more short video that won't be a lecture of any kind, but just to sum up, you'll get a study guide for the final exam, which, as I said, will be essay-based. And that's about it for right now. Okay, I'm going to cut this a bit short. Have a good day, folks. Bye.